are you?
Can you see? Hey,
I
I'm
can see
good,
you.
thanks.
I
And
can see
you?
you fine. Yeah, very good. Thanks. So good to see you, and thank you so much
Good
for
to see you
taking.
too.
Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to the Rock Pit. You've got a far better background than I have.
Oh, well, yeah, this is actually wasn't meant to be like this, but yes, the building that we lived in has water damage. So these are the last days of living at the countryside in exile
Okay.
of the renovation.
Yeah, okay. At least you've had a few things to take your mind off that recently. You've been to South America for the first time.
Oh yeah, definitely. That was brilliant.
Yeah.
The whole tour was awesome, and yeah, we really had some good time over there.
What are the crowds like? They're notorious for being crazy and really getting into their music.
Well, I think well, that part is definitely true. So, if there would be if there would be like a definition in a dictionary for under the word fan, where if it like describe if it's a short for fanatic, that's a typical South American fan.
It's good, and
So,
yeah, we've
yeah,
sort of like at
really
the
loud crowds and audiences.
yeah at the Rock Pit, we've sort of like been following things since day one. You sort of the band's been releasing music as long as we've been around, and I must admit, you are my favorite band, certainly of the past 20 years.
Oh,
So,
thank you
and
very much.
you just keep giving us something different as well. I mean, I love Turborider. Um, and you've obviously that's the latest tour, bit delayed because of COVID, but you gave us something different again, which was quite special. You seem to just not be comfortable in that comfort zone. You always want to try something more. Is that true to say?
Yeah, that's kind of yes, and you know, a huge part of it is the fact that we want to keep it interesting for ourselves because you know we've done that's part of the partly how we grew up. Really, I mean, all the bands that we grew up listening to didn't make the same album over and over again, except for maybe AC/DC and Motorhead. And you know those are probably the only two bands. But yeah, our guitarist is a huge fan of Metallica, and they've been evolving throughout the years. Every album gave the fans some different stuff, like you know, in good and bad, both of them. So you know, for better or for worse. Motley Crue, each of the first albums even have a different logo, and Theater of Pain is a complete glam album, and
Mm.
right after that, Girls is you know, it's like kind of like more of a street vibe in it, and they have all these black leather outfits. I think the same thing with Judas Priest as well, even though the you know, you mentioned Turborider. Of course, Turbo was one of the main
Yeah.
influences behind Turborider album. But then again, how different it is when you compare it to Painkiller. So you know, it's there's always been it's been a natural part of us to evolve somewhere and to go somewhere from what we just did before.
Yeah,
And
it keeps it very
in the
fresh
same
as
time,
well.
yeah, of course. And in the same time, I just like it's kind of like you know a complete circle because on the first record there's already kind of hints of Turborider going on when you listen to a song called Back to Paradise, which has
Yeah.
all the sequenced synthesizers in there and all the electric drum kit grooves and all the tom fills and stuff like that.
Yeah, you're looking very well. I obviously bought everything, so we've got the video game version. I think that's the first. I've certainly never seen it before.
Oh yeah,
Have you
yeah.
played the game?
That was a Oh, I've tried it out, but it has so many games in it. I never got to try them all out. Um, and I think that was actually not our idea. That was a brilliant idea by our record company, AFM Records.
Hmm.
Some you know goes to show that even sometimes record companies they do have some great ideas. Yeah, and they just heard because they when they heard about the fact that we are doing an album like this that's heavily influenced by by the video gaming world and all of the arcade stuff that we did when we were kids. Like when we hang out at the arcade, they came up with the idea of a handheld device, and we were like, "That's great! I mean, that's the best thing ever." Our own Game Boy, basically.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I haven't tried all the games either. It's an album of great tracks, and you've been playing a few on the tour. We were originally
Yeah.
to see you last year, and then things got changed, and you were meant to be over with Skid Row. You sort of dodged a bullet in a way,
Yeah,
the way that tour ended out.
yeah, I heard about that. Was it like did Eric get ill or something like that?
Yeah,
Was it cancelled?
he got sick, so they played a show in Sydney, which was the second date, but they then cancelled that and the Japanese tour that they were doing afterwards. So it's uh,
Oh,
it's very
yeah.
sad.
Well, it, yeah. I mean, that tour was there was something like how do you say it had bad luck written in it from the
Mm.
beginning, because when we first agreed to do the tour, we were really excited, and then of course it got cancelled because of the back surgery of was it Dave,
Dave, yeah.
somebody from the Dave, yeah. And now when he's recovered, Eric gets ill, and of course when they rescheduled, the schedule was not like it didn't fit our schedule, so we had to back out from the tour. So
Yeah,
so many
hopefully.
problems with touring.
That's right. I mean, last time I saw you was the previous time when you were here, where I snuck into the sound check at the Prince, and
Yeah.
we had I got to listen to you before that show. As a live band, there's no one really out there like you at the minute, I don't think. And you've got a real knack
Oh,
of
thank you.
sort of getting the audience in the palm of your hand really early on. Is that something that comes natural?
I think it's half and half. I mean, of course, you grow into it, and but there's a long tradition of. I mean, it's not like the most successful bands from Finland have been glam bands or hair metal bands, but the original one, Hanoi Rocks, started in
Yeah.
Finland, and I remember when they did the revisited tour and the comeback tour in early 2000s, and I went to see them as a kid, and I was really impressed by how they kind of like how the show was constructed and how it was like songs back to back, and there's not that much of speeches in between, and it was really relentless for as a member of the audience. And then of course that kind of got me into the idea of kind of like look into similar type of bands, and that seems to be a kind of like a thing in Finland, where you just like where you put your head around the idea of how to make it more like entertaining, if that's not the word in Finland what they use for it. I think it's more like art what they prefer, but I think it's entertaining. It's
Yeah.
kind of like two opposite things in Finnish language. I don't know why, but for me art and entertainment is the same thing, and some people in Finland consider it the total opposite. But yeah, that's basically. I think it's something that comes from our culture, and of course, we are huge fans of rock and roll anyway. So we've been kind of like sucking in the all of the influences throughout the years, and those guys did it that way. We want to do it same. We want to do it the same. Oh, we don't do that. We do it differently, and we constantly keep talking about the set lists and keep changing it. And when we did the Latin America tour, we had two different set lists that we kept switching around all the time. And even those two set lists were, we shuffled some, like we put different songs in there every now and then.
Yeah, it's a great
And
set
then,
list.
of course,
Yeah, I've seen some of the video from the tour. It looks absolutely fantastic. There's a bit of Dave Lee Roth about you as
thank you.
well in your stagecraft.
Yeah, and he's probably the main influence for me as a singer, as a performer. And yeah, I mean, I mentioned Hanoi Rocks already. Hanoi Rocks came in later because they weren't around when we were kids, because they were over in 1983, 84, something like that. So I was born in 83, so I grew up without Hanoi Rocks. So I learned about them later in life. So yeah, Van Halen. That's the that was the kind of like the where things kind of got rolling for me when I found out about Van Halen's first album. And then right after that, 1984, all of the rest of the original six pack. And yeah, Joe Elliott is there too in singing wise, because there's a bit of country, not in my singing exactly, but when it comes to me and our guitarist Pepe is kind of harmonizing, we've taken a lot of stolen a lot of ideas from Def Leppard, how to kind of like make our voices work together.
Yeah.
And yeah,
You've taken the good bits.
of course there's Kiss as well.
Kiss, yes.
Oh yeah, that's how we like to see things.
Yeah. On the maybe the next album will be a makeup album. You never know.
Yeah, it could be. We have to. We already did Spirit, but yeah, we did Spirit with
right.
With the Sugar Skull design. So yeah, but yeah, that was way too elaborate for doing every for every show. It's like 7 hours of makeup before the show.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that's 10 years old now this year. Spirit.
Yeah. I just turned 40, so I can't believe that myself. So it makes you feel old, doesn't it?
That's crazy. And you've got some big shows coming up as well. I saw that you've got a tour back home coming up with Sonata Arctica. Anything else planned?
Yes,
You must
we
have
have.
some summer dates.
Yes, we are actually. Well, my favorite. I have to mention this one. It's Helsinki, the capital of Finland. It's a Helsinki festival, so they kind of like do shows all around the city, and that's in mid-August. And we are doing this like one of the most legendary venues. It's a tent in the city, right in the smack in the center of the city, and we're doing this. We're opening for Turborider, the synthwave giant, and we're playing a special show there. We're actually playing through the whole Turborider album, so each of the songs on the album are going to be played live.
Wow, that must be a first. I know you played a few, but there's a few there I'd certainly love to hear live.
Yeah, we haven't done 89 Sparkle, and we haven't done Future Lover Boy. So there's quite a few tracks we haven't played live, and yeah. And anyway, it's going to be a really, because I'm a huge fan of synthwave, so it's going to be awesome to open for Perturbator, because it's such a treat to see him after the show, or his band. I'm talking about him because he's a producer and a synth player, but of course he has a full band with him, and it's going to be, because it's such a different vibe from 80s hair metal and rock and roll, but in the same time, he draws influences from the same stuff, same movies, same arcade games, same kind of stuff, and it's a completely different style of music, but in a sense, they kind of go hand in hand, in my head at least. So it's a great match.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think as the years have gone by, and I've gone back to the older albums as well, you were right when you said that the hints for Turborider are right there on the first album. Every time you push just a little bit more with the sort of like synth stuff, I always feel I'm not going to be convinced, but when I hear the results, I always am. So it's for me, it's always a great pleasure to hear new music.
Yeah.
Are you working towards new songs at the minute, or?
Yeah, we're actually, most of the summer we're going to spend in writing new songs, because we did a massive amount of shows last summer, so this summer is going to be way easier for us in touring wise. So we're going to use the time and write some new stuff, and of course, yeah, Reckless Love is one of those bands that you mentioned, the synthesizers. It's kind of like a power trio and we've always missed out on the keyboard player. And then we've never really even tried to look for a keyboard player, because Pepe, our guitar player, he's he's sort of, you mentioned David Lee Roth, but Van Halen did the same thing. Eddie Van Halen played the synths and the keyboards. So I think it's kind of like the same thing for us, even though we don't do it live, because Pepe is more of a guitar player than a synth player, but he knows how to play a synthesizer as well. So it's a great match. Yeah, yeah,
I was going to say, when you start a new album, do you start with an idea? How does it all begin, or do you just write and see what
it
happens?
it changes. It changes. I mean, for the first two albums, we had like for the first album, we had an idea. We wanted to make a like a statement. We wanted to make a hair metal album, like ABC 101. We wanted to do like a hair metal album. Period. That's what Reckless Love is, like in a heart. And the second album was kind of like more experimenting with stuff. We wanted to write a poppier version of the hair metal album, and we did it while we were on tour because we never expected the debut album to become as successful as it did.
Mm.
And I remember having like 52 shows in the same time frame as we were in the studio writing the new album and recording it. So we ended up touring in Finland at the same time and then going back and forth from the studio to the shows. And, you know, it was exhausting, but in the same time, it was so inspiring because we had to do stuff very quickly and we did not have time to kind of like stop and contemplate if this is good enough. Or of course we did that, but we not like should we do it a bit differently? Should we try this with this song? Should we try that? It all came out like very naturally, and it's kind of like exactly what we wanted. Like there's songs like Animal Attraction on the radio, Hot, of course, which doesn't really fall into any kind of genre category, but it's kind of like in my head, it's kind of like our Bon Jovi album. It's got like the it's got all of the poppier side of Reckless Love in it. Then when it came to Spirit, we already had the concept in our heads. We wanted to make it more kind of harsh rock and roll metal, but then again mix in some of the you know, a bit like Mexican kind of Latin vibes. We even got like haters were saying when they heard Night on Fire that this is some Ricky Martin bullshit, that we don't want to hear this because it's got such a Latin groove in it, and we're just like, oh Jesus, this it's just a rock song. But anyway, yeah, we had all of the masks and the ideas for the look and the jackets and everything. We had it from the get-go, even before we started writing the album, and it all kind of got together perfectly for that album. Invader, yeah, Invader was kind of like it was totally like the total opposite from Spirit, because we went full on colorful on Spirit, so we wanted some black and white stuff for the artwork, and to do it kind of like, because there's four members in the band, and somehow album number 4 felt very important, so we wanted to strip it down from all of the paint stuff and all of the makeup stuff and do it very kind of like kind of like our Black Album basically. Of course there's a lot of synthesizer stuff there as well, and you know, the sounds, we chose another mixing engineer for it, Mikko Karmila, who's done like huge amounts of like all of the legendary metal albums from Finland, Children of Bodom, stuff like that, very kind of like extreme metal. But he has a very good ear for he's done other stuff in Finnish, so he's got a very good ear for rock and roll as well. So we chose him, and it was a perfect choice. We kind of got what we wanted with him, because he made the album sound like you know, as I said, like it's our Black Album. And when it comes to Turborider, we already had the idea in our heads. We wanted to make a synthwave influenced album, because we already, as I mentioned, the Back to Paradise, on every album we kind of like, you know, we flirted with the synth stuff all the time, and that was a huge part of our youth and as we were growing up. All of the bands were doing that. Van Halen was doing that with Sammy Hagar. All of the hits have synthesizers in them. David Lee Roth in his solo career, Just Like Paradise, the Skyscraper album is full of synthesizers. Judas Priest Turbo, yeah, you name it. ZZ Top's Eliminator, and what's the Afterburner? That's those two albums. They're very influential for us as kids, because those songs were played on the radio all the time in Finland. And of course, last but not least, Def Leppard's Hysteria.
Mm.
It's an amazing album with a lot of synthesizers on it, and
Yeah,
all of the electric drum kit sounds as well, which
it
I
is.
love.
I think
Some for some reason for some reason drummers seem to hate the Simmons drum kit sounds from the 80s, but even our drummer, who's a very strict hater of electric drum kits, he kind of grew into it. He was like, "Oh, you're right. This is not that bad. It's actually very interesting."
Yeah. I think people do forget that the fact that there was a lot of synthesizers in some of those very very big bands, and I mean to me it's
Yeah.
just brings back great memories of some of those fantastic albums when I listen to Reckless Love. You
It,
mentioned all of those bands that influence you, but one question I've never asked you is
mhm.
when did you know that music was going to be so important to you? Was it like a defining moment, or was there the gradual realization, I guess?
I think there were many. I think there were many of those real, but yeah, I think it was more of a really in real life. It was probably more of a gradual process. But I remember this one particular occasion when we were spending. I think it was like a national holiday. I'm not sure what's the equivalent for you guys, but it's May Day in Finland is a huge festival, the 1st of May, and it's kind of like a carnival time here in Finland. And yeah, that's kind of like a national day off, and we were teens. I think we were 16, 17 or something like that, and we had already everybody. The band was together already, kind of, sort of, because we were a group of friends. And yeah, we already had like dreams of what we were gonna do when we are, because we're in the verge of being adults soon, basically. So, who's gonna do and what, who wants to do what, and who's gonna be a police officer, and who wants to be a rock star, basically. And we were spending the evening at the house of the very first drummer of the band. Uh, and he was called, well, we called him Jam, but yeah, Jari in Finnish. And his house, we were watching Guns N' Roses, the Use Your Illusion tour,
Mm.
um, from I think 1992. Was it something
Yes.
like the Tokyo Dome show? And as I watched the show and looked at my friends, I knew already that they could do, like, we could form a band if we wanted to. And that's when the idea kind of came about, that maybe we should actually try and do this for real, because he knows how to play guitar, you know how to play bass, um, you know how to play drums. I can sing. Nobody wanted to sing, but I can do that. So it was kind of like we all like that's when we decided that, okay, let's give it a shot. And of course it took more than 10 years to actually make the first album, but anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's when it,
That's what's
as
so good.
yeah, as we were watching Axl Rose run up and down the Tokyo Dome stage in his cycling shorts. Um,
I think there's a few ladies out there who wouldn't mind seeing you in some of those cycling shorts. I can imagine.
who knows what the next album is going to be like? So
Well, you've had the tuxedos now, so you've got to change it
yeah,
up again, I guess, for the next one.
of
So
course, yeah. We're gonna switch it up somehow.
yeah, well, it would be great if we did get to see it again down under, but you never know what the future brings. Um,
Yes.
how do you write a song? How do they come to you?
Uh, Usually it starts with the melody and the chords, basically just an acoustic guitar, and just start strumming away and come up with a melody, and then the words come in later when you add some electric guitar and synthesizer or drum machines or something like that into the first demo or the draft of the demo, when you kind of sort of get the feel of what the song is going to be about. So that's when the lyric idea, all the words are starting to pop up in my head.
Yeah, and how many songs?
That's probably the usual route. But sometimes it works the other way around. Sometimes I have for example, on Animal Attraction, there's a song called Born to Break Your Heart, and I just had this idea in my head, so to write a song that was titled Born to Break Your Heart, and I just mentioned it out loud to our guitar player, who immediately started kind of humming the phrase in his head, and a couple of hours later he had the first demo of the song. So it started with the lyrics instead of the melody. So it depends. And same thing on Turborider. There's, I think, the Turborider, the song, actually, it came about so weirdly. It was such a short amount of time that we wrote it in. I think 25 minutes or something like that. The actual title track, because Pepe, our guitar player, just had a riff, just like a really simple kind of synthesizer riff. So the main riff, and that was it. And he just like wrote it down. And what's this? I mean, how where is this taking us? And it was just like the producer Jonas and I were kind of like totally sucked in immediately into that world, because that spoke to us the language of the arcade gaming, because the riff was so simple. It just made sense. And it was just like we took a break from it, because we had already laid down a couple of chords and the rhythm. And the producer Jonas asked me what's the title of the song, and the first thing that popped into my mind was to kind of like incorporate turbo, of course. And then the rider part came Knight Rider, because remember the TV series with
Hasselhoff.
David Hasselhoff. And of course, because it kind of reminded me of the theme of the TV show. So I just like combined those two. It was Turborider, and it came out in a heartbeat, and that's how the song kind of like, it took a next step. He loved the title, so he wrote a melody to those words on top of the riff, and off we went.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's a wonderful album. I mean, the more I play it, the more I sort of like fall in love with it. It's there's so much in there, and I just can't wait to see what happens next. That's perfect, and what a great way to close. We'll get everyone back listening to Invader. It's been wonderful to talk to you again. I think this is our fifth over the years, but we've never done a one face to face before. So it's thank you so much.
We need to do it one day.
Oh, we will.
No, thank you.
So hopefully we'll get to see you down under, but if we don't, I'll be heading north. So
all right,
we'll catch up.
You're welcome anytime.
Thanks so much, mate. Take care of yourself. Stay safe, and we'll see you on
too.
the road.
See ya. All right.
Thanks, Ollie. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.